And hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to another special edition of Clever Title Pending. Welcome to the Indie Band. Hope you all are having a great day. We had some last-second kerfluffles, but anyway, let's do that intro real fast because Megan Loughran put some work into it, and you'll know what we're about then.
Welcome to Clever Title Pending with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. Don't send him title recommendations because Brian knows exactly what he's doing. So just sit down and look pretty as Brian K. Morris scrolls through your comments and plays with his mouse. Join him on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, for Evening Pandemonium and Moonlight Madness.
Well, this time of day, there's not much moonlight. So anyway, I must be wearing the fez, so I must be Brian K. Morris. Welcome to Clever Title Pending, where we talk about creativity and the business behind it. And if you're watching us on Facebook, please give wherever you're watching this a like, okay? Because it helps the algorithms, helps Indie Event be more seen elsewhere. And if you're watching on YouTube, please, wherever you're watching us from, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified of more great programming to come. All right, and we have a very special guest. This is somebody I've been talking to for a little while and didn't realize that he was planning to put out a comic book of an upcoming novel he's got coming out. But I want to bring him out because this guy's got one heck of a story to tell, and we're going to add him right now to the stream. And there he is. There is Russell Allen of RussXplode Studios. Russell, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing, Brian?
So far, so good. Sorry we had a little confusion getting you off the marks here, but we're
No,
going to...
that's my bad. I forgot that you sent me the link yesterday, and I was sitting here going, okay, any minute he's going to send the link, and I was like, oh, yeah, he did send it to me yesterday.
Yeah, that's the problem when I show these rare instances of efficiency. It throws people off. So, not on you, man. It's not on you. But anyway, thank you for being here, man. Thank you for being here during Indie Event. I appreciate it a lot.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, cool. Well, like I said, you've got a great story here. And I talked to, just as kind of a preface before we let you introduce yourself, I run into a lot of people, would-be comic creators and would-be novelists and would-be illustrators, would-be YouTubers. Notice that little qualifier in all of them, that they would be if they just get off their backsides and start doing it. But I read your bio on your website, which, by the way, is coming through across on the crawl, xenonanitetitan.com. And yes, I've practiced that, as you could tell. Why couldn't you have called your character Ralph? Anyway, I'm going
to wreck it.
Do it. Yeah, wreck it, Ralph. Yeah. All right, now we're talking. Now we're getting to the meat of the issue here. But anyway, this man here has got a great story, and reading it, I'm thinking, man, I got no excuses anymore. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this great guy take it away and introduce yourself. And Russell Allen, please tell everybody why you're so darn awesome.
Hey guys, I'm Russell Allen with RussXplode Studios. So to kind of get started, I guess, I started writing the story 10 years ago. So if you guys want to read more into the story, you can go check it out on my website. So I started writing the story 10 years ago. I have several books that I've had in the makings, and life happened. My son was born. He had multiple open heart surgeries and just all kinds of stuff had happened over the years that I just was like, I can't make this happen. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy to put into it because I have this family stuff to attend to. But it was always deep in the back of my mind. It was something that I wanted to do and that I knew I could do. I just had to get it out there. And so, 4 years ago, I get back into the scene. I start making a lot of artist friends and stuff. I started Art Exposure as a kind of a thing to get some of these low-end artists and stuff, and not low-end in quality, just low-end in following. They're great artists. They just didn't have people that knew about them. And, all you really seen plastered everywhere was the big Marvel, the big DC, but you didn't see a lot of these indie artists that were in the background producing this wonderful art. So I started Art Exposure and I put it out there, and I got on a few artists that, hey, let's show off your work. I think you do phenomenal work, and I think you need some recognition for it. And so over the last 2 years, I built up that as long as, or also I built up, Comic Book Nation, trying to draw in more of these indie artists. So to keep it short, I accomplished with a few artists getting them on and having them show off their work. And a couple of them, really took off. A lot of people found out about them. And a lot of people started following them. And it was a great feeling knowing that I helped push someone to success. So in the background, all these years, I've always had artists, creators be like, oh, hey, I see you sharing everybody else's work out all the time. What do you do in this industry? And I'm like, well, I don't really do anything. I've wrote these stories, but everything kind of got put on hold. And they're like, why? And it's like, well, my son's open heart surgeries and, just family stuff getting in the way. I don't really have the time to dedicate to it. And so I've always had them pushing back at me to say, hey, from talking to you and talking about ideas, we can see that you're really creative. So what ended up happening was in January, I went in because I was having pain. They found a mass on my spine and a mass on my liver. The end of January, they said there was a significant evidence of malignancy. We still don't know yet. But I started to sit down and I thought, what are my regrets? What is the biggest thing that I regret? I started a family. I have great kids. I've done a lot in my life. I love helping people out. And then I had that thought in the back of my mind, hey, these people have been pushing you to put your book out. And that's the biggest thing that I regret, is not getting my stories out there and not letting them be heard. So in the face of adversity and everything that's going on, I made it my goal in life that I'm going to put this book out. Against all odds, against everything that's been put up against me, that's the one thing that I want to accomplish in my life. I want to get this story out there. I want Xenonanite Titan story to be told. I thought the best way to do that was through a novel, show off my creative writing, and then hopefully in doing so, I will be able to see somebody who has as much passion as I do about the project, an artist or something that would say, hey, I heard you want to make this into a comic book. Let's sit down and do this. I really love the story. I want to draw the art for it. Let's do a story and let's make this happen. So that's kind of what my goal is right now with everything and what I'm trying to accomplish.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to put up a little something here on the screen. This is just a shot of from your website, Xenonanite Titan. Yes, I hit the right button. Correct. Yay! Otherwise, both of us could have gone into hyperspace. But no, that is you've got a powerful story, brother. And I love to see the rising tide working with you. But I see this illustration here. And every artist right now who's probably looking at that is probably thinking, man, I better get my name in the queue here. Who did this illustration for you?
So I have a phenomenal team of artists. I have a bunch of artists that I have a close-knit relationship with in the indie community. And this was done by Wendy Steen Shaner. This was the animated piece that she did for the piece that has been done for the book. So my goal with working with these indie artists was to say, hey, I'm going to do a comic book eventually down the road, but right now I'm doing a book. Comic books are your thing, but you've never been in a book before. So I want to help promote you by including your art in my book, and in turn help promote books by getting people who are into your art into reading a book. I thought it was a really cool idea for kind of like a cross promotion between the two of us. I would be delving into the comic book world by people saying, hey, I really want this piece because I like it. I'm going to buy the book. And then, what's the point in buying a book if you don't read it? So of course they're going to check it out. But also it's for, other authors out there that, on Never Mind the Furthermore yesterday, we had a great question about what's the first thing you think of when you're looking for an artist for the cover of your book. And I said, I want to find somebody who has as much energy and can do the mood of the piece that I want to do for my book. And this totally represents my mood. It's RussXplode Studios for a reason. I want to explode. I want to get out there and I want to show my work off, and I want it to blow up. And Wendy did a great job when she did this. She showed me the piece originally, and it had a few explosions in the background. She said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think we can add a little more explosions to it." And she's like, "Are you serious?" And she's all squee, she's super excited because she's like, "I love explosions too." So
Who
she
can't use
did
more
this.
explosions, man?
Yeah, and so she did it, and she added more explosions. She's like, "What do you think now?" I was like, "It's perfect." I'm like, "There's nothing but explosions in the background. I love it. It's awesome."
That is beautiful. That is great work. And folks, if I know Russell's going to be mentioning some other artists, and I've seen a couple of them in my interwebs travels. So please give those people a like, give them some support when you see them, because that's what our Rising Tide philosophy is all about. And as you see, we have been greeted by several wonderful creative people like T.L. Shively, Carl Witzman, Teresa Dunn, and Rodney Fike. Glad to see you all here, and everyone watching us, no matter what platform it is, whether it's on YouTube or the Book of Faces. Please drop your questions in, okay? Because that's what we are here for, to begin our interrogation of Russell Allen here. And here we go. We also get a congratulations from Geek Insider. Good morning, Brian and Russ. Thank you for being part of Indie Vet. You guys rock. Well, thank you very much. And I think, and I got to tell you right now, Russell, I think you totally rock. I love your philosophy. And I love the fact that you've got like a business plan. You've got, increments you want to go, and you've got what looks like benchmarks that when you cross them, you made it, and then you move on to the next. And I do like, and I will, reveal that Russell did send an early draft of the Xenonanite Titan book to me. And if you love old-time comic books, old-time science fiction, old-time pulps, you're going to dig this book. And I'm not saying that because he's here, okay? I already got the job, so I don't have to be nice anymore. But anyway, but we try. And Teresa Dunn says hello to all watching us on YouTube. Thank you for being here. And hello to everybody listening to us on iHeartRadio as well. But anyway, you mentioned these other artists. You mentioned Wendy. Do you want to drop some other names and maybe what strengths they bring to the storytelling table?
Yeah, so I actually have 10 artists that I've commissioned to do for the book. I'm actually going to draw my own piece for the book. It may not be a great piece, but it's me proving to myself that even though I'm not an artist, I'm at least going to make an attempt. That's my goal. So there's 10 pieces. Most of the pieces actually have included in them Easter eggs for the story. So several of the pictures actually will tell a story themselves. Once you have read the book and you go back and you look at the art for the book, you'll be like, this was staring me in the face the whole time. So I have Chris McJunkin did a piece for the book. He's a phenomenal artist. I had Evanette Rivas Fournier. She did a piece for the book. She did the Painterly piece with the Wyvern, which I'm not releasing the name of the Wyvern yet. That is something that I want to save for later on. So anybody that has an early release, we won't talk about that. That piece is phenomenal. So it shows off, the Wyvern that Xenonanite Titan comes across in the story. And then you have David Fought's piece. His piece is phenomenal too. His piece is one of the big pieces of the story that actually has something to tell, that you're going to go, why is this like that? And then you're going to read the story and you're going to be like, whoa. And then we've also got Jason So did a piece. My great friend Ed Williams. Definitely want to give a shout out to him. Ed Williams is one of the very first artists that I brought on Art Exposure. He kind of does it as a hobby, and I told him it's not a hobby anymore because you enjoy doing it and you do a great job at it. You may have a 9-to-5. I have a 9-to-5, but I'm still a creative writer. But you got to pay the bills. So he actually did my base piece. So we sat down and we talked for 8 months, and I'm like, this is what I want. This is what I want it to look like. This is what, I gave him reference pictures. I told him, use my words to describe to him what I wanted. And so I'm really thankful for him. If you guys didn't see it, definitely give him a check out. I had him live Wednesday on RussXplode Studios, which is my Facebook page, and he did a live draw for the first time. That's what I've been working on for 2 years, is getting these guys to get out there and show their work off. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of him too. He does phenomenal work. I also had Finney the Great did a piece. Finney the Great's piece has a ton of Easter eggs in it, and that was a real challenge. So my biggest challenge in the book is I wanted art that tied into the story. I wanted art to have Easter eggs because I wanted you to read my story, and I wanted you to see the great art, and I wanted there to be things that were contained in the story but not give them away. So that was a really hard goal to accomplish through doing it, is how do I incorporate this into art without giving it away? So that was really the only direction that I gave the artist, was I need this done, but I need it to be subtle, but I need it to punch you in the face after you read the story. I don't want it to be obvious. And outside of that, I gave each one of the artists creative control over the character. So I have, Ed's base art. I'm still going to draw my piece because I want to portray the character as I see it. Everybody that reads, whether you read a novel, you read a comic book, you're always going to interpret your own visual of what that character looks like, no matter what art's in front of you. And that's why I didn't want all 10 pieces to look the same. I wanted everybody to see various views and various interpretations based on what I wrote and what I told these artists. And I think they all did a great job of doing that. I also had CB Zane has done a piece for it. His piece is the final piece for the book. It's a very, very phenomenal piece. I love it. And then, so I talked about Finney, Ed, Wendy, CB Zane, Jason So, David Fought, and then Steph Wilson. Steph Wilson's got a piece in there. Steph Wilson was a lot of fun because he came out and he's like, okay, so I did this piece. And I was like, okay, I like that. And it was really weird because Steph always does his stuff on the tan Bristol. And this was like a white piece of paper. And he's like, wait a minute, you want me to do it the way I see the character. And I'm like, yeah, that's the goal. I don't want you to do it how I describe the character to you and what you think I want. I want you to do it like you've seen it. And he brought a super awesome piece to the table. Everybody else, had their base, this is what the character looks like, and then they went their own direction with it. And Steph did a piece where all of the armor is free floating on the body, and I thought that was a really cool idea. Instead of having like a stationary armor, it was free floating, and it's really cool how it turned out. And each piece gave me inspiration in writing the story. So not only did I already know that what was going to happen in that section of the story they were doing the piece for, but I also altered some of the story after receiving their piece to tie more into how awesome their pieces turned out.
It's fantastic. That is great. And it sounds like a genuine collaboration between you and your artists where, you bring the idea, they execute it through their own talent set, and then in turn it inspires you to push your end of it in the storytelling just a little bit higher, which is what I think, any sort of good collaboration should do, especially in comic books. Now, is one of those pieces that are on the Titan.com site going to be the cover for the upcoming novel, or is that still in the works?
So, yes. So, in doing my piece, and I also have a secret piece that's being worked on in the background that will be revealed when the Kickstarter goes live, maybe. We may set it as a stretch goal for the reveal. I am collaborating with each one of the artists to sit down and actually take. So I got 10 pieces, and mine will make 11. And I don't know that I'm going to include mine because I don't want everybody to blow smoke up my butt and be like, all right, yours is great. We want you to use your art for the cover because it's your book and we want to make it feel good. So I may not include mine in that. But my goal is to take 9 of the 10 pieces. So I will send that, 9 of the pieces to Wendy and say, vote. These are all the pieces of art. yours isn't included. You can't vote for your own. Which is your favorite? I threw around a lot of ideas, and one of them was to throw it up and do an audience vote of, hey, which one would you like to see as a cover? But I think I agree with a lot of the feedback I got was there'd be a lot of bias that people would vote for their favorite artist instead of voting on their favorite piece. So, I talked with the artists and they all agree. They think it's a great idea that they get to vote out of the 9 pieces, which doesn't include their own, which one is their favorite. And out of that, that's, I think, how we're going to come up with the cover.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, I had a question based on that. Now, I like the idea of the idea of the reveals being part of your Kickstarter. Now, you're going for crowdfunding on this, and what already you've got your art. It sounds like you've got a lot of this already set up. When are you anticipating? Should all the stars align, of course. When do you anticipate maybe launching your Kickstarter?
So I'm pushing for November. So I set November as my end date. So I had the rough of the story. I ended up going through and doing the final drafts of the story. My goal, this is my very first Kickstarter. This is my very first time putting myself out there. So my goal was to prove to people that I am 100% for this project. I have spent the money for the art. I've spent the money for the editing, and the project is done. I want to bring a completed project to the table and show people that I'm passionate about this and I believe in it enough that I've eaten the cost of everything. I want you to just to help print the book. So basically, I set a goal for November to have all the art and stuff done. I'm still waiting on one piece of art, and that's one of the people that I didn't announce yet, just because in case something comes up and falls through, I don't want it to be lingering out there. That
never happens.
Yeah, it never happens. So, my goal is November.
Good.
The book is finished. It's at the editor. So once I get it back and make the changes, it's ready to print. The art and everything is done. Basically, right now, while it's being edited, I'm setting up my tiers on Kickstarter. I've already got a Kickstarter started setting up. I'm definitely setting up some stretch goals and stuff. I haven't quite figured out what I want to do. I know I am going to set one of my goals that I had 2 goals. Sorry, I don't mean to go off on a little bit of a tangent here.
Go.
So I'm a huge advocate for comic books for kids. So let me talk about this for a little bit. My friend. My son has had multiple open heart surgeries. Okay, as a dad to a heart kid, that I spent a month in the hospital with my kid when he was a week old. And that was when he had his first open heart surgery. And he had cardiac cath at 11 months. He had open heart surgery at 1.5 years. The hospital brings in toys. They bring in books and stuff like that to these kids. And as a father, I can advocate that this is the best thing in the world that anybody could do for these kids. Something to you that seems stupid, a Dollar Tree toy, a dollar book from Dollar Tree. That when people bring that stuff into our kid when he's in the hospital and he's had a major surgery, it not only lights up their day and gives them something to be excited about and forget about the pain, but it gives me as a father and as a husband 10 or 15 minutes to sit down with my wife and us to spend time with each other and decompress through the day while he's busy off doing that. So I've met Mark, who owns and runs Comic Book for Kids at C2E2 last year. And I've been donating to C2E, not C2E2, but Comic Books for Kids. It's cb4k.org. And I wanted to incorporate that and give back to the other kids out there, seeing that how much this helps my kid out. So one of my things that I wanted to incorporate in the Kickstarter is I'm going to include a CB4K tier. And if people want to purchase that tier of the book, $10 of that book will go towards CB4K. Once the Kickstarter's over and it funds, I will personally send all the money that's made from it plus some, to Mark to help these kids out. I'm a huge advocate for giving back. My goal in writing the story is I don't want to be rich, Brian. My goal in doing this comic book is I don't want to be rich. I want to write wholesome, heartfelt stories that touch people's lives, gives them something to smile about. If I make 100 people smile and I make $1, those 100 smiles are worth more to me than the weight in gold. You know, I could be a millionaire and I wouldn't be happy unless my books made people happy. And so that's my ultimate goal.
That's fantastic. Now, was that cb4k.com?
.org. So
Oh,
it's C
.org.
as in,
Thank you.
yeah, it's C as in cat, B as in boy, and then the number 4, and then K
And kids.
as in kids. That's
Okay,
right.
because yeah, the reason I want to do that is I'm going to. I just typed it in. I wanted to make sure I got it right because if anybody's going to screw it up, it's going to be me. And we are going to put that link in the comments here. So, folks, wherever you're at, whether you're watching on Rising Tide, Comic Book Advocates, Geek Insider, my page, wherever, YouTube, Facebook, please consider dropping a couple dollars to that organization because it sounds like they're doing the work of the angels, and we want to support that because we've all had loved ones in medical care who, like you said, just going to getting just something that we pay for with pocket change, can just make their whole day go faster. So definitely, thank you for sharing that.
Well, and the best part is it's 100% of your proceeds go towards it. 100% of all the donations go towards buying books and shipping those books to hospitals. So, I mean, there's such a big deal that Image, Dark Horse, and several other publishers, and they have a relationship with Mark. They send him skids of books to send to the hospital. So,
Cool.
not only is this, all of the fans out there that help donate money, the publishers believe in what he's doing. And they are fortunate enough to have the ability to give those books to him to be able to send. I mean, granted, we know how much it is the cost to ship books out. I mean, we've all either had Kickstarters or we all have had books, and you sell a book and it's $8-10 just to ship one book. Well, this guy's shipping hundreds and hundreds of books to hospitals everywhere. And then I feel like it'll be a great thing to do right now because of COVID. There's a lot of kids in the hospital, so that's definitely why I wanted to incorporate it in there and help give back to the people and the kids, since our kids been helped out. I feel it's only right.
That's
And
correct.
another stretch goal that I have that I was talking about that I wanted to incorporate, the other one is I'm planning on doing, I set a goal that's unrealistic to me. So right now I'm looking at like 6,000 is going to be the goal. And that's only because I'm doing an art book. So 6,000 is what I need to hit to do the minimum print run of 100 of the books hardcover and 100 of the art books hardcover. Everything after that will just be, unlocking stretch goals. But I wanted to set a goal because it's totally unrealistic to me. People say I'm crazy, but at 20,000, if I hit 20,000 on the Kickstarter, not only will my mind be blown, but I'm going to drive to each one of the artist house and everybody that. Now, granted, I am going to charge like $25 for the signings because I mean, there's one in California, there's one in New Mexico, there's one that lives an hour and a half, 2 hours from me in Branson, Missouri, and then I got 2 in Florida, one in New Jersey, and one in North Carolina. So they're kind of all over, but I'm going to make it a stretch goal because I think it's a really cool idea. We're going to do the Zeno Nanite Titan nationwide tour, where I'm going to go live when I get to Wendy Steenshainer's house and be like, we're at Wendy Steenshainer's house. Everybody that, paid for the stretch goal to get their book signed, we're here, and then go live with Wendy for 10 or 15 minutes. We'll and then we'll sign, and I'll get all the books, all the art books signed, whatever you guys want. And that $25 will be for, the art book and the book, or if you just want to get the book, or if you want to just get the art book. I'm not going to charge $50 if you want both signed. So I mean, that's just going to be, hey, I'm doing this for you, but I need help with gas and hotel because I mean that's going to be a long trip. Sure. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. It would not only be great for me, because it means that I did it, and it means that a lot to me. And so that's my way of giving back to everybody. Instead of you guys having to go out there and take this book and try to meet up with 10 different artists to get it signed, I can make it happen for you. And not only that, but I can also hug it out and be like, thanks so much for helping me. I'll be so excited to meet up with the artists and be like, because I'm totally stoked that, I'm like, hey, do you want to do this piece for my book? And they're like, oh yeah, and they're super excited. I'm like, okay, why are you excited? You've never read anything from me.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And if you're watching aboard the the International Space Station right now, Russell may have to charge you as much as $28 in order to get to you, but he will get to you in time. Anyway, think big, man. Think big. Now let's talk about this art book. Now, is this an art book that's separate from the main story, or like is it just a group of like a book of illustrations, or
yes? So I have the art that was done for the book. So as a separate entity from the book, I'm a huge advocate for art. I love art. I love promoting artists. That's what I do. You guys see me online. I'm sure if you look in any group, you will see posts of me posting Dawn McTagg, when Wendy goes live, CB Zane, any of these guys that go live and draw. I'm pumping them out there everywhere. And I don't do it to spam up everybody's feeds. I do it because, hey, come check these artists out. They do awesome work. Don't just look at, Todd McFarlane or whatever. Exactly. Rising Tide. And so my goal with the art book is with loving art, I wanted to take and not only take the illustrations from the book, but also print the preliminary sketches.
Good idea.
The uncolored black and white piece, and then the color piece. And something that I've actually incorporated recently, I'm going to beef up the book a little bit, and I'm even going to include a bio on each one of the artists. I was something that I had talked to Wendy Steen Shaner about, and I said, hey, Wendy, how would you feel about if I included a bio about you? I mean, I don't want to just throw your art out there and people go find you on Facebook and they follow you and they look at your art. I want people to know who Wendy Steen Shaner is. So, do you think that you would be okay with that? And she's like, oh, heck yeah, I'll get something wrote up and I'll send you a picture over to use. And I'm like, and so that's kind of my giving back to the artist as well with here's a bio on the artist. This is who this person is. This isn't just their art. This is who they are. And this is their preliminaries. This is their black and white sketch. And then this is their color sketch. And, this will be a larger format book, of course, like, 8.5 by 11, or maybe even bigger if I can find a publisher or a printer. I mean, that will print a bigger format book.
Let's talk. I do know some.
Okay, definitely. But this will be my way of giving back to the artist and giving, people a chance to buy a larger format of the art to have in a hardcover format. Now, it will not be available alone. You at least have to buy a copy of the book with it.
Very cool. Very cool. And good morning, Amy Hill.
Good morning,
and also,
Amy.
Yeah, and Michaela Jade, hello to you. I don't believe I said hello to you earlier. And Amy is somebody who's a novelist who is currently working on her comic book as well. There's a lot of people doing double duty. Of course, a little aside here, there's a great history in the history of comics of people who made their name in print, who also had either had done comic book work or did both at the same time. Like here's trivia for everyone: the Green Lantern Pledge, Brightest Day and Blackest Night, that was written by Alfred Bester, who wrote The Demolished Man and The Star's My Destination, big name in science fiction. Before Harry Harrison wrote what was it? Make Room, which became the basis for Soylent Green. He was a comic book artist. And Don Cameron, who wrote the Long Arm series. There's just been a whole line of them. Of course, I know another one. But anyway, but yeah, you mentioned this art book, and it sounds like an amazing concept. Not only allowing the fans to get to know these artists better and know them on a personal basis, like we're trying to do with this show, but also, bring them some more work maybe. Now, if someone wanted to be involved in that book, would, aside from the folks that are already working with you, would you be open to other contributors, just to the art book?
Yeah, I mean, cost is definitely going to be
Well,
an
I mean, you
issue.
have to close the door eventually, but
Yeah. So as far as the art book goes, for book one, I'm done with it. So book one, I'm closed out the art. So
okay.
after the 10th piece is done and the 11th piece is done, kind of what I'm doing right now. So I do the my show on RussXplode Studios for my author page. I do Sundays and Tuesdays, and then of course this week I did a Wednesday live draw with Ed.
Always
I
promote.
do
Always
artist
promote.
creator interviews, and I have a few that I have coming up that I'm in talks with for book two. So, I mean, this isn't just like, hey, I'm throwing a book out there and I'm going to see if people are going to bite. I'm doing this. Book one's done. Once it gets, back from the editor and I make the final edits, before this even goes to Kickstarter, I'm starting the second book. My goal was eventually to do a trilogy and then roll it out into a comic book. So this is basically the origin story of the character. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, just going out and making a new comic and then going back and doing an origin story, this is more based on my personal preference. I like really reading the origin of a character. Where did this character come from? Why did he get the suit? Why does he have the suit? What was the suit built for? What happened to this guy? What happened that caused him to be like he is? What caused him to have the temperament that he has? I want to know everything I can about the character when I read about it. So, this is my way of getting the origin story of Raziel Stevens out there. He's a family man. He's a dad. He had all this stuff happen, and that happened to the earth that caused everything to fall into place. And so now that book one is done, book one ends on a cliffhanger. Book two will pick up where book one left off, and it will. So book one's really like the fall and the rise of Raziel. Book two is actually where he will become Xenonanite Titan. So this is kind of like the lead up into doing the comic book format. And so for book two, I've already started talking to artists. So yes, it's a yes and no to your question. No, I'm not accepting any more for
Okay.
book one. Book one
All
is
right.
finished, but I am accepting, hey, do you guys want a chance to get in on book two? I am keeping a few of the original artists. I will probably keep on Ed Williams and
Oh, yeah.
Wendy Steenshaner and a few others.
Sure.
But my goal is not only to promote those guys, but to bring in new artists each time. That way, by the time I get done with book three, instead of just having 10 artists, I could have 30 artists that I promote, or I could have 45. I mean, book two could be longer and I may need more art for it, but I
Yeah.
definitely have a few openings left for book two. I've already started filling those slots. If anybody knows me, I don't waste time with anything. I think, and I plan ahead.
Yeah.
I'm 3 steps forward while I'm working on here because I don't like surprises.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so like one of the things that was my goal why I wanted to do the Kickstarter at the end of the year is 2020 has already been a natural disaster in itself. With the Miley or My
The My
Sharona Miley
Sharona, Miley,
Cyrus
Cyrus, Peter
Peter
Pandemic.
Pandemic. That's right.
Good man. You did good.
So I was like, I don't want to deal with the tax liability mess of trying to figure out this stuff because if it I knew it wasn't going to be done until October or November. So I'm going to run the Kickstarter toward it ends after the end of the year. This was something that was kind of hindsight for me that I seen this being a problem. Who knows what's going to go on with these stimulus checks and with all these tax cuts and
Oh,
everything that
yeah.
they're trying to do with our taxes next year. So do I really want to end a Kickstarter this year and have to deal with the tax liability at the beginning of the year and worrying about, do I keep out enough money for it? So I'm going to use that thought of saying, hey, Dan, thanks for joining, buddy. That was my thought. I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with that. So I'm going to run the Kickstarter through the first of the year, just so when the funds close out on it, I receive it in 2021. So it's not something I have to worry about until 2022. So anybody that's out there, if you're thinking about doing a Kickstarter, keep that in mind. These are things that, if you don't talk to somebody when you're doing a comic book or you're doing a book or you're doing any type of Kickstarter, these are things you got to think about. Stripe takes 3%, Kickstarter takes 3%, and then you have to pay taxes. So when you're figuring out the pricing of your book, you have to, I mean, even if it costs you $11 to print your book, you can't just sell it for 15 and then, you know, charge $8 for shipping, and you're going to be in the hole by the time things get done. So you gotta make sure you factor in the 3%, the 3% on the other end, and you got to factor in taxes, because, you know, when next year rolls around, the IRS is gonna be like, hey, Russell, you know, with RussXplode Studios, we're really proud of your book. We really loved it. It's a #1 hit seller across the nation, but where's our money?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to have a big head about it. I'm trying to be positive. I love my book. I'm passionate about my book, and I'm passionate about my character. And I am so excited about this. I'm so excited for you guys to read this book. I am stoked to get this story out there. It has been my dream.
And I love that, you know, because I see so many creators in different areas. I keep quoting the old saw about if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. But I see your enthusiasm, which, you know, will carry you through a lot. But the fact that you've also taken into account real world consequences and kerfluffles in the way that could occur, and you're launching this when you get everything in hand. That you know, as somebody, if I didn't know you already in our, you know, casual acquaintance so far on Facebook, that it would give me a lot of confidence to see this sort of thing, knowing that, you know, you're trying to anticipate all the stumbling blocks between you and success. And, you know, that's something a lot of people don't do, and I've fallen prey to it myself. You know, in fact, I see a lot of people that they'll do the rundown of expenses on Kickstarter, but they forget to include the percentage you're going to pay to Kickstarter for processing. You know, and that you know, what 6 to 10%, whatever. You know, that can make a huge difference. And so it makes me very, very happy that you're looking further down the road. I love hearing that you're already thinking about sequels. This also makes me happy. As you know, somebody.
I got a spoiler for you.
Oh, okay. It's just you and me. Nobody else will hear it. Okay.
Nobody else will hear it. Just you, me, and the internet. So
That's
I've already started writing book 2. I lied. I didn't take a break.
Why, you lied to me. Dang you. Good. It's a good kind of lie.
Hey, you know what? I said, I told everybody, I said, I'm going to take a few weeks off, you know, to take a break from things. But that's how excited I am. And it's no lie. I am super stoked about this. I was so excited. You know, I've been sharing the story with Wendy as it's been going, and I've been being really mean to her by leaving her where it end off on cliffhangers.
Oh, that's cruel.
And she's like, she's like, all right, what are you doing online on these live shows? You need to finish this book so I can read it. She's like, you're not writing right now. What are you doing? So no, I said I was going to take 2 weeks off, but I'm so excited to roll on with the story. And book 1, it's going to seem kind of mean where I end off. So, I mean, here's something for people too that you really need to think about.
Yeah.
When you're writing sequels, you have to know where your starting and your ending point is with the series. You can't go into there, all right, well, I want to start here, but I don't know where this is going to go. You're not going to get anywhere with it. I went into this with, here's where book 1 starts and here's where book 3 ends. And I figured out what the best place in between is to break it up. Because I didn't want to do like a 700-page novel. I wanted to put it out in spurts so people had something to be excited about in the anticipation of having the book. Don't forget to lick the spine.
And when I get your book, I promise I will apply the healing saliva on it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So $10 and I'll lick your book. $20 and I won't.
So, you know, I had these polls. I had, this is my start, this is my end, this is where it's going to continue on as a comic book, but here's where book 1 will end and book 2 will end. And the reason for that is book 1 ends off on a pretty major cliffhanger. But the problem is this is the origin story. If I would go on further with the story, it would no longer be just an origin story, but it would fall into, you know, Xeno Nanite Titan being who he is. So I left off there for a reason, and I think it works well because not only does it allow me the opportunity to say, okay, the origin story is done. Now it's go time for Xeno Nanite Titan. But it leaves off on a significant cliffhanger that I think if for everybody that's going to love the story, you're just going to be like, please tell me book 2 is coming out soon.
I love that. I love that. Now, the comic book, since we are on the indie event and we should talk about comics, are you seeing the Xeno Nanite comic as, say, regular, pamphlet, floppy, regular comics, or are you looking at graphic novels, or maybe one, the smaller leading into the other? And will this be an adaptation of your prose, or is it going to be a continuation of the story that you've launched there?
So it kind of depends. I've thought about doing a floppy or a graphic novel. It'll definitely be paper based. I won't do like a webtoon or something like that. This will definitely be something that'll be published on paper. That all depends. I mean, this is me showing off my creative writing ability and the ability to write stories. I mean, there's going to be endless possibilities of what I can do with this. It all depends on this. It's like go back a little bit on what I said earlier. My idea, my goal with writing this story as a novel was to set the hook and the bait and wave it out there and say, who out there is passionate enough about this character that's into art, that's a good artist, that has the energy that I have, that we're going to be symbiotic in a relationship, that you're going to message me and say, I heard you want to make this a comic book. I love this book. I love this character. I love this idea. Let's make a comic book out of it. Or let's make a graphic novel out of it. You write the story. I'll do the art. We're going to make this happen. And that, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but that's my goal. Either somebody will be passionate about it as much as I am and want to be a part of the project and will be symbiotic. And that's what I want, because I need an artist that's going to work and operate on the same level as I do so we can put out that energy in our work. That's not to say I don't find somebody that I see that I'm, super stoked about their work. And I'm like, hey, do you want to work on this? I'm just trying to work both ways. So depending on what kind of an artist I get and what kind of, it's a tough thing to really decide on, because if you get an artist that doesn't have a whole lot that they work on, that they don't have their own creator series, they have time to do a graphic novel. But if you have an artist that does their own graphic series, that does their own comic, or that does a lot of cover work for Kickstarters and stuff like Steph Wilson does, they don't really have the time to do a graphic novel. So it'd be like, hey, I need you to do, a cover for this. And, hey, I need you to do the sequential art for this. And, it's a really big process. I mean, people don't really understand how much work it takes to actually do a comic book. You can't just draw pictures and put words in it and people love it. You actually have to put a lot of thought. You got to put a lot of work into it. You got to find people that you can work well with that are just as passionate about your project. Because if you have one bad apple, like they say, it'll spoil the whole bunch. It's going to show in your project in the end that these two people worked their butts off to make this a great product, but this person really wasn't into it. And so I want to make sure everything's lined up, the stars align, and we bring out this explosion of a comic book that everybody's going to want to have in their hands and read.
That is great. That is great. And with the current crew of illustrators you've got now, you've got variant artists out the backside. Carl Witzman adds from YouTube, crossing media types hopefully will bring more people to your work, and he wishes you good luck, my friend.
Thank you, Carl. And that was a lot of my goal, like I had mentioned earlier. Including Wendy Steenshaner and CB Zane and Steph Wilson and all these awesome artists that. There's going to be completionists out there that will buy the book just because they are a completionist. They want that piece from Steph Wilson, or they want that piece from CB Zane. And I'm not saying that I'm using it to sell books, but I'm passionate enough about my book to know that if somebody buys it only for that reason, why would you buy a book and at least not take a glimpse into it? And through using them and as artists, not only to make my work stand out, there will be those people that are completionists that'll buy it, and then they will read it and they'll be like, holy crap, I'm glad I bought this for the art because this book's awesome. I'm going to buy a book too. And they're going to tell their friends about it. I want everybody to at least give it a shot, and one of my things is, as people with the comic books will put out a teaser, and here's a few pages of sequential art and the dialogue in my book. I'm probably going to release a digital copy of the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2, because chapter 2 ends in a huge cliffhanger. And if you're into the story, you're going to want it.
Yeah,
That's all I can say.
Cool. Yeah, and I love the idea that you're talking about symbiosis, that somebody just coming into this conversation may think, boy, what a cold-hearted guy. He's, using his friends. I call it exploiting their good name. But the fact is you can do some good for each other because their fans with you and your following, because you've become quite high profile. A lot of, shows like Nevermind the Furthermore, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. on my page. Anyway, always promote. But you've got your own friends and followers now. More that will, hopefully come to ZenonAniteTitan.com and check it out, because you can also get on Russell's mailing list, and he has a blog on there where he's keeping you posted on the projects as they reach fruition. Plus, little glimpses into what's going on in your own life, which is really a good touch. It's really nice, and it's a very attractive site. It really is. I give you all kinds of kudos for that, because most of the time my site, RisingTide.pub, is kind of a hard hat area. So we're running down on time right now, but real quick, who are some of your in your artistic journey? Who were some of your influences in terms of storytelling, plot creation, character creation? Who inspired you as you were coming along?
You know what? I have a lot of inspiration. So I'm a partaker in various media platforms, which you can read about on ZenonAniteTitan.com. I'm an avid video gamer. I have been since I was 8. So Doom, Wolfenstein, Xenogears, a lot of these RPGs and stuff. I love the storyline. You could have the greatest game out there in the world, and it'd be the most fun to play, but eventually it's going to get old because there's no story behind it.
Right.
So I really feed off of the games. I mean, I had Xenogears when I played that. I think I ended with like 290 something hours into it. And, and it shows you that when you look up your save game and you load it up, but that's how long the game is, because it has such an in-depth story. And, that's the kind of game that I want to spend $50 on. I mean, now granted, this was back in like 1999, 2000 when that came out. But, that was the kind of games that I wanted to spend my $50 on. Something that had a great story. One of my big book, inspirations was Brian Jakes. I love the Redwall series. Mossflower and Redwall. I don't know how I stumbled across the books in my library in elementary school, but I did. I found Mossflower, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. The cover it was a hardcover book, and it was well worn, so I knew it had been read, and I was like, this looks interesting. I'm going to give it a shot. And I fell in love with it because Brian Jakes had a great storytelling theme of, you never knew where the book was going to go. You didn't know about what this looming threat was. It was always started out with, you have this character and follow this character on this journey. And that's kind of how I wanted my book to be. Here's my character. There is some stuff that goes on a little bit to kind of show you that something's going to happen, but that's not what it's all about. And the reason why I like that, Brian, is because it's not predictable.
Yeah.
When you have a character that's being introduced to you and you're not like, it's not thrown in your face, the cyborgs are coming in to destroy their world.
Right.
And, when everything's thrown at you all at once, usually typically by halfway through, what's going to happen.
Right.
I wanted my book to be like, what in the heck is going on right now? And that's how Brian's books were. They were great. Mm-hmm. Brian Jakes did a phenomenal job of, like, you didn't know where it was going. All this stuff would happen to the character throughout the story, and eventually you would finally figure out what was gonna happen, and it didn't always work out the way that you thought. And I really like that. So I mean, there's way too many to go over. But Brian Jakes is one of my huge, like I said, he was a huge inspiration since I was a kid, and a lot of it, from video games and movies. I probably own over the years, last 25, 30 years, probably at least 2,000 movies.
Wow, that's great.
And
Very
it takes
cool.
a lot to impress me. I mean, if I'm sitting down and I'm with the wife and we're watching a show or a movie, I'll be like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And she's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it is. And then it happens. She's like, you suck. You ruin every movie. And I'm like, well, they should do a better job of keeping me on my toes. And
Yeah.
I love it. And every once in a while, it will happen that I'll be like, I know what's going to happen. And then it doesn't. And I'm like, whoa. And she's like, haha, you were wrong. I was like, I love this movie. We're buying it.
That's funny. That's great. Well, unfortunately, Russell Allen, we are running a little slim on time here, but it's.
Oh, you're good.
Oh man, no, you're good, man. You've made this an incredible hour. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey with us. And so now, just like on Hot Ones, we're going to give you a minute here to tell everyone one more reason, just real fast, why they should buy Xeno Nanite or keep an eye on you or follow you, and where they can keep tabs on you. Tell the people how to stay in touch.
All right, guys. Again, I am Russell Allen with RussXplode Studios. This is my lifelong hope of making this happen. So this is my labor of love. That's the word I was looking for. This is my labor of love. I've put a lot of work into this. You guys definitely need to check out Xeno Nanite Titan. At least read the synopsis that I put out. I guarantee you'll be hooked. It's a great story, and I'm almost positive there won't be anybody out there that's going to know what's going to happen at the end of the book, because that was my goal. And if you want to follow me, I do creator artist interviews at RussXplode Studios, and that's also where I keep tabs on everything that's going on with the book as far as Kickstarter, art, story, anything that's happening. Again, that's RussXplode Studios on Facebook. You can join my author page, RussXplode Studios on YouTube. Every video that I've done up until now is uploaded on there. All my artist creator interviews, live art unboxings, so on and so forth. RussXplode on Twitter. RussXplode on Instagram, RussXplode on Twitch. I also stream to Twitch now too. So I've owned RussXplode since 1998 on pretty much everything. So it's just something that I rolled forward with because I've always liked blowing stuff up, and that's what my job was for a while. So you need to find me. You Google RussXplode, and I guarantee you all of the pages lead to me.
Excellent. That's the way it should be, my man. Well, anyway, Russell, thank you very much for being here on Clever Title Pending and joining IndieVent. I appreciate it greatly. And hang out for a minute here. I'm going to put you on mute, and
thank you very much.
Oh man, thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your story with us, man. You just ruined a lot of people who use that excuse that I'm going to wait till everything's perfect before I get started on my artistic journey. You're kicking down the barriers, and that's what I love to see. So I'm going to put you on mute for a bit, and we'll talk when we get back. And I'm going to dominate the screen here on my slow computer. But anyway, thank you all for joining us here at IndieVent for the very special episode of Clever Title Pending. And don't forget, RisingTide.pub is my site where you can sign for my free monthly newsletter. Next one goes out September 1st. Also, check out the QR code over my shoulder here. That'll take you to my Amazon sales page where you can see some of my books. We are working on comics for various studios, but if you want to keep up with us, sign up for RisingTide.pub or Rising Tide Publications on Facebook or on YouTube. And never mind the furthermore, a show just like this happens every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central, and Clever Title Pending comes to you regularly every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. This coming Tuesday, we're going to have Clayton Merwin, the Art of the Hero Maker, and we've got all kinds of really great people in line. Stay tuned to IndieVent. Roland Mann is a longtime independent creator, is going to follow this show, and we hope you have an excellent weekend. Thank you very much, and as always, stay smart, stay safe, never apologize for being awesome, and we'll see you sometime soon down the road, hopefully real soon, here on Clever Title Pending.
Thank you for tuning in to Clever Title Pending, a Rising Tide Publications and Brian K. Morris production. A member of Comic Book Advocating Network and sponsored by GeekInsider.com. Become part of our show with sponsorship and advertising opportunities. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com or visit podcast.geekinsider.com. The Geek Insider podcast is available on your favorite app, so please hit the follow button and share it out to your friends. Because if you don't, you might have to turn in your geek card.